All right. Welcome to a very special Battle Science community chat about factions and well, impromptu, I guess, sort of title is Factions in the Future of PvP. We'll be talking about factions and PvP with a couple of faction battlers. I am Steven, aka Boy in the Woods, as I scroll through all of my stuff and potentially mess things up. I am joined by uh, do you want the full title X3DxJMar159 or just JMar from Wing Attack? Uh,
Amber's fine.
and Bowling Bacon from Queen Bee. Is it Queen Bees? Is it plural?
Yeah, it's the queen
The
bees.
Queen Bees. Okay, I should probably. This is the kind of research I should do ahead of time. Um, um, quick before we hop into this discussion, this is a Battle Science podcast. If a bonus podcast. So we are brought to you by our wonderful Patreons over at patreon.com/battlescience. Thank you to our wonderful Patreon producers for the month of November, Dolphin93, James, who I think I know who it is, but they have not let me know what their either in-game or Discord name. So if you know who you are, let me know so I can credit you properly. Winston the Champ, Evo Stevo, and the one and only Jamar. Um, Thank you for backing us over at patreon.com/battlescience. Let's hop on into it then. So I am joined by two wonderful guests currently, and a third guest via text. Winston the Champ is unable to join us here for the recording, but we'll be submitting some responses via text that we'll probably get to here in a little bit. But joined by Jamar and Bowling Bacon. Bowling, I'll go over to you first. I've got a list of questions here. We'll start off with who are you, what do you do, and where can people find you if you want people to follow you on the socials?
So as stated, I am bowlingbacon300, and I am on both Twitter and Instagram. My Twitter, well, is bowlingbacon300, and I also have a Pokemon Go AR photo Instagram account um, at justmystic_pogo AR. So those are my socials, and yeah.
And Jamar, do you got any place, any socials, any YouTubes? I think you may have a factions YouTube thing you might want to shout out.
Yeah, you can follow me at x3DxJMar159 Twitter. I have no idea what the long attack URL is because we're in the same boat as you are trying to get 100 subscribers. Um, I can certainly link in the chat later or something.
I can pull it up here. Is it just Wing Attack or is it Wing Attack PvP?
Wing Attack PvP is our Twitter, and I think I've linked our YouTube channel to our Twitter account as well, so you can find us on Twitter at Wing Attack PvP.
I'm getting videos. Let's see, Wing Attack. Yep, I'm getting specifically Wing Attack. And actually, if I just look up Wing Attack, I also get a volleyball move, so that's not correct. There we are. Oh, what a shame. I have not subscribed to Wing Attack on my personal YouTube. Let's just click that button there, give you another subscriber. Wing Attack. I mean, I can read this URL, but I think I'm going to save everyone the time.
The alphabet soup.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Some
Also,
numbers.
yeah, includes numbers and has capitals as well. So,
Right.
I'll avoid reading that one out here. Um, Let me go back over to my list of questions here. Let's see. All right. You're on a Pokemon Go podcast. Obligated questions for you guys. Your first experience with the Pokemon franchise, your favorite Pokemon, and then your favorite Pokemon Go experience/memory.
So for me, my first experience with Pokemon was actually Pokemon Go. I did not get introduced to Pokemon as a kid, like a lot of people. I wish I would have, because I know a lot of people have that nostalgic feeling with Pokemon Go. I did know about Pikachu. That's about it. Hence why Pikachu is my favorite Pokemon. And my favorite Pokemon Go experience, there's quite a bit, but I'd say like the top two are either the Portland Mega Tournament for PvP back in February of 2020, or going to Portland for December Community Day with one of my roommates. Yeah.
I guess for me, uh, Pokemon Silver. I played a lot of Game Boy Color way back when I was like 6th grade or something. Much like everyone else in their late 20s, early 30s. My favorite Pokemon is Lex, X3DxJMar159. It's the best Pokemon I have all sorts of stones and elements. Just a nice onesie. Pokemon Go, favorite experience. I went to in-person Go Fest in Chicago in 2019 with my friend x3DxJMar159. We got to hang out in Chicago and catch a lot of Pokemon. It was a really fun time.
Let's see. This one's a really kind of generic one for you guys. What do you guys hope for in the future of Pokemon Go? Like, where, like, do you guys like maybe hope for was it the summer of Pokemon Go to like come back? Do you guys like just want a like the golden age to return? Or do you guys have like a particular particular hope for, say, PvP or something?
So I'm not sure about any like specifics in terms of like the future of Pokemon Go, but I do hope the game itself will last for a while longer. Because it's a really fun game with a great community. And yeah, I'm hoping the PvP side of things will continue to improve and just continue to still be in the game. So I feel like has like that has been great for me in terms of like building community around the game and meeting new people. So I just hope that stays. But yeah, I'm honestly not sure about specifics and stuff like that.
I don't know that the game was a golden era, Steven, like you said in that first summer, like at least for it was cool to see like everyone in the others playing the game, right? That was really cool to see. But as far as gameplay goes, like I don't know that it was and I don't think that still is the best game it could be, right? So I think that's why a lot of people left. But I guess my hopes would be that it would be, and it's kind of going into hopefully in the right direction. We'll talk about it later about the play Pokemon tournaments and things like that. Just kind of getting the recognition that it is still associated with Pokemon at that franchise level, that it is competitive, that there is skill involved, that it's not just luck, RNG or whatever, pay to win, which there are issues all around that we can discuss for later on. But I definitely would like to see a functional PvP experience where it's consistent. Whether fast moves are snuck in consistently or not. I just want consistency out of the game. I want it to work the way it's intended to work, not random things that, Mewtwo losing to Lugia and CMP. That's not how the game works, but I've seen it happen. Mm-hmm. And so those are the things that should be ironed out.
I think I agree with that in terms of like, I wish it would be more consistent. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, consistency would be nice, especially in the PvP side of things in the game.
Yeah, I think that's the broad. If you did a broad survey of, I think specifically PvPers, but then potentially just general players as well that maybe experience PvP a little bit. Actually, that'd be an interesting question for the broad spectrum of players, and even ones that don't play a whole lot of PvP. Excuse me. Either don't participate in Silph or only play in GBL or play maybe a little bit of Silph if they recognize how inconsistent some of the mechanics have been. That there's a lot of work that needs to get done there. By Golden Age, it's very interesting. My some of the conversations from people that don't play Pokemon Go or that only played during that initial launch window of Pokemon Go. I call it, I reference it as a golden age because other people will reference that, 2 to 6 month period as the only point in time. They'll view it with such nostalgia that it's like the only point in time that we've had like global peace and that everyone was playing Pokemon Go. And so I don't reference it as a golden age in the sense of like the mechanics and the health of the game. It's more of the player base and the global outlook just improved because everyone was getting together and staring at our phones to play Pokemon Go rather than looking at all of the potentially dismal outlook of the global, I don't know, socio-political economic picture, I guess. So yeah, there's a lot of the hopes for the future of Pokemon Go. Man, I can't wait for us to get to 1.0 because we're still not there yet in this game's. What version are we in currently? 0.223.0-G-64. And I think that's the Google Play version. And that's why it's the G. So it's a long way off from a 1.0. I can't imagine how far it'll will go for that. Okay. And then I have, if you had one question to ask the community and one question to ask Niantic, what would they be?
So I've been trying to think about this question quite a bit and trying to come up with like what a good question would be. I'd say to ask the community, like, I don't know, what does the community hope for in the future of Pokemon Go? Like what would the community like to see in terms of like improvements or in terms of just anything really? I don't know. I guess a question to ask Niantic, similar to what we were just talking about, like, how would you, how would I word that? Like, how would you go about improving PvP to make it more consistent, and when could we expect to see more improvements in PvP, and what exactly those would look like?
Yeah, I guess the question for Niantic would be like how does PvP fit into like their business, right? Because they're obviously they're not a gaming company, they're an AR company, right? And they have this extension of PvP, and players obviously want to be competitive in that. But I think that's a bit of a conflict with what their business is. So how does that fit in for them? And why is it that they seemingly like disregard the PvP portion of the game? At least in my opinion, it seems like it gets disregarded. And for the community, what would it take for you to battle? I don't, not, you look at like Silph numbers and the competitive scene, and I'm curious what the interaction with GBL is. I don't think everyone interfaces with the battling system. So, what would it take for them to get into it?
Yeah, that's like the second question. I think is actually good, and I think I have access to some of our local Facebook chats with some of our local players, and I think a handful of them do GBL every once in a while. But I think that is a good question of the mechanics of PvP and GBL give rewards, but they're not necessarily rewards you can't get anywhere else. And I think maybe there's enough of a barrier to entry, and it's maybe an illusion of a barrier to entry within GBL that maybe it's hard to get over. And so yeah, I think finding the right way to incentivize GBL is that's a maybe a long-term question, or incentivizing not even just GBL but PvP in general. Yeah, that's the long-term question, I think. I'm gonna hit another button here. Split. All right, so let's get into some faction questions. Actually, I'm gonna reorder these because this is the explain it to me like I'm 5. What is factions?
So I'm really bad at explaining things, but factions is a team-based PvP format. It is teams of 7, and you can have 2 alternates, so 9 total. And each person plays a different role on the team. There's Great League, Ultra League, Master League. One person does each of those leagues. And then there's 2 themed metas, essentially, that 2 people each will do each of the metas. And then the alternates can step in if someone needs to take the week off or something. And it's really a great team building experience where you can just bond with your team, talk about PvP, what you can do to improve. It's not ranked, but it is a fun team PvP format that people can participate in.
Yeah, I guess I'll add on the it doesn't impact your personal rank, but the teams get tiered into different ranks as the season progresses. So they are all there's, I think, diamond is the top one, and platinum, and gold, and bronze, and there's an open or a qualifying and an open or something like that. And so depending on when you entered into the season, you get you'll start at the bottom. If you played in the preseason, you got ranked into those tiers, and then there's relegation and promotion throughout the season. So at the end of a cycle or a tournament, if you will, you will get promoted or relegated based on your performance against that tier.
I have the factions page pulled up here, so any of our video listeners, viewers, let me just make a what is it called? I'm blanking on it. Contradiction. Video listeners and podcast viewers. The diamond, platinum, gold, silver, bronze. Let's see. Open and then qualifying tier are from top to bottom your faction tiers. So ranked similar to any other esport sort of competition I don't know, tiers, competitive tiers, I guess. Let me pull up my questions again. Where am my brain here? It's a little early for podcasts. I don't know what I was thinking. Let's see. The competing in the different tiers. I'm gonna go kind of like off questions here. I know you guys are in the different tiers. Like, what's been your experience as far as like the competitiveness of, like, I know that there's only so much interaction you can have with your opponents in, say, factions, especially since factions had started after the pandemic, so everything is remote. What's the competitive like or competitiveness like in factions versus like a standard Silph Arena tournament, or like what you might get from a GBL?
I'd say factions is very competitive. I'd say, for example, when I'm looking at my opponent and looking at their teams, and say, I think, oh, they're like a trainer rank on Silph, which is the bottom rank. That doesn't necessarily mean they're not good or they're not competitive, because what if they hit like legend in GBL, but just don't do a lot of Silph tournaments? Like, they still can be really, really good. And yeah, I'm not sure what else to add.
Yeah, to add on to, like, there's way more factions competitors, in my opinion, that don't do Silph. I've seen a lot, and like as it's kind of gained traction on the social media and stuff like that, like there are like Twitch streamers that have gotten into factions and made teams that, you know, haven't done Silph in the past. So there are some really good teams out there. And then just like as far as like competitiveness, it's also, since it's team based, like coaching is allowed. So like I know that a lot of the top tier teams get on Discord calls, stream their battles to their opponent, or to their teammates, and you know they have them in their ear, kind of like talking strategy between games, during games. That's all allowed, as long as it's within your own faction. And I know that's been a contested thing and discussion amongst the Silph Arena Discord chats and stuff like that. But anything to get that edge to talk strategy and all that is something that everyone is doing at the top tiers, in my opinion, or that I'm aware of. And then some of the teams have invited us into their own Discords to coordinate battles and things like that. And so we get to chat and you know, discuss PvP and the game and just get to know each other. So it has been really cool to meet people that way. Given the competitive nature, they were still, you know, a little bit of, you know, fun little smack talk, but nothing too much. But it's been really fun. It's been probably one of the best experiences PvP wise goes, in my opinion.
So I think the question of, you know, factions players not doing a whole lot of Silph Arena or not doing Silph Arena at all, I think leads into the your experiences of playing. I know both of you admin tournament organize local tournaments, and I imagine you guys participate in your fair share of GBL, but what is the balance like between playing Go Battle League, either participating in Silph Arena or tournament organizing Silph Arena tournaments, and then playing in the Silph Arena factions? Like, how do you balance that, you know, sort of PvP from three different, maybe similar like points of interest, but like three different PvP activities? How do you balance that?
So for me personally, I do, like you said, I tournament organize for my college's Discord. I also participate, of course, in the tournaments. Obviously, I do factions, and then as far as GBL goes, I've actually been doing it a lot less in order to balance like PvP and obviously regular life stuff. And so what I've been doing is doing like 2 to 3 ongoing tournaments per month, ones that are like say 72 hours per round, and then like committing to factions and just doing GBL really whenever I feel like it, which is not that often. And I think that's helped with balancing the three like PvP things. I'm not like stressing like, oh, I have to do like 6 tournaments a month, or I have to do all 5 sets of GBL per day. Like, I feel like setting a limit for myself has been good in terms of balancing it, and then being able to dedicate my time, say, to my factions team has been nice, and then just doing however many tournaments I want per month.
Yeah, like factions started up like in the spring, right? And that was like the preseason, and that's kind of when I realized that like, oh, this is going to take up a lot more time than I thought it would be. So heading into this Silph season, I'm cutting back on that. I'm only doing my local tournament a month. I used to do 3 or 4 tournaments a month, and really, it's just from my perspective of like what I miss. Like if what I miss from Silph is the personal connection and getting to meet people. So as you know, if in-person tournaments were a thing and doing them live, I would be able to do like a Saturday, trip to somewhere and do more tournaments if that was the case. But given that it's remote and it kind of feels like it takes a while throughout the month to get through a whole tournament, I decided to just go to the local ones because I kind of am trying to foster a little bit more competitive nature in my local community. Trying to incentivize people to do PvP. So regular Silph has taken a backseat for me while I've taken a more interest in factions. GBL, I've cut back on but that was a while ago, and just because of like the nature of how like what's the word I'm looking for? Frustrating it can be. So I try to limit myself to 2 or 3 sets a day, which is 10 to 15 battles total, and then just try to not think about it. I still rank up to my goals, and so I know that I can achieve the goals that I want to without getting superly frustrated at the inconsistent mechanics of the game.
So then looking sort of balancing wise specifically at Silph Arena and sort of going off of your response, JMar, of the local tournaments being more ideal just because they're usually one and done. Do you think that's where sort of answering I think it's a leading question here, or asking a leading question here. Do you think that Silph Arena is putting together factions as more of a dedicated remote style of PvP, where once we're better off within the pandemic and able to get together more safely or more comfortably, that going back to in-person tournaments are going to be where the individual, the Silph Arena that we know and love is going to sort of reside, and with maybe some remote long form tournaments still happening, but that factions is going to take that sort of core position within the long format remote competitive sort of scenario?
Yes, I think that's kind of the path it's going down. There's definitely something missing from like the regular Silph tournaments. I think factions would be a really interesting thing to do in person. That would be pretty crazy to do. But given the remote nature of it, once a week, it works really well in the remote environment and still fosters that competitive nature. So I think that's kind of where Silph is going with this. And by the way, I think my table just got called, so thanks for having me. I got to get going. It was really good chatting. Hopefully, you can keep the discussion going.
Alrighty, yep. Thanks for joining us, JMar. then
Yeah, and I guess I agree with what he was saying about that in terms of like it would be really interesting to do factions in person,
mhm.
but I don't think feasibly that's not possible for a lot of factions. That would be so much fun though.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I just hope in-person tournaments can resume again soon.
Do you think then the factions format currently functions very well because it's remote and you have that longer duration? Do you think that maybe the factions not having not dived into the rules personally, I think I've skimmed it a time or two. The Do you think the format can be and the rule set can be adjusted a little bit to um, more lean towards like local groups? So similar to like region-based teams, region-based factions. Similar to your um, either your recreational league sports teams or anything like that. Do you think that can format better, um, or that can be adjusted here in future, I think, cycles, so that in person factions competitions can happen?
um, I feel like they could adjust the rules a little bit, but I feel like they would have to keep if they were to do factions in person at all. I feel like they'd have to make the online or like not in person aspect as well, so that people who want to keep with their original faction, who might not be able to all meet up in person, like they need to keep like both in person and not in person, um, in order to like run factions still. Because like for me, I know a lot of people in my faction are like halfway across the country, for example. But if in-person factions were to be a thing, I'd still want to keep with my team. Um, if that makes sense at all.
So basically run two sort of variations in parallel. So run
Yeah,
the.
I'm not sure how that would work, but I feel like that would have to be the case
Mhm.
if they were to do any sort of in-person factions.
I think it might be worth the next. Let's see. It'd be trying to think of what they call it. The Go Fest, maybe next Go Fest, or if at some point we go back to doing a mega, maybe trying that format locally. It also wouldn't surprise me if it's something that itself, while not being a corporation, doesn't usually outwardly express a lot of their internal communication. Um, and it wouldn't surprise me if some of those conversations have already been happening in the background. Um,
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if any of those conversations like have been happening, like behind the scenes, and we just don't know about it.
mhm.
I feel like that would be really interesting to know about, though.
I think we've maybe indirectly answered the question, but like, what got you into doing factions other than, hey, here's this new format? What was the incentive to join factions? What was the reason you got into participating in the Silph factions?
So I guess a few factors into what got me into participating for factions. Um, so I don't know if I mentioned this, but my faction is made up of all girls at PvP members, and they're just like, oh, we need people for the North America faction. We want to do like all girls at PvP just to like represent a little bit. And I'm like, that sounds like a lot of fun. And I like the idea of it being a team competition in that we could all help each other out. So I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. And they hadn't filled the Great League role yet, and I'm like, I would gladly do that, open Great League, which is the only role I've played, and I've enjoyed it quite a bit. But yeah, honestly, the team building and team bonding aspect of that like really solidified that decision for me to participate, because I think it's really cool that people can bond over something like a mobile game. Like, that is really cool to me, and that's what made me want to participate.
So you mentioned all of the participants on your faction team are all from the Girls at PvP. Is it their Discord? You're all from that.
Yeah, we have a pretty big Discord for that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What is, participating with that group within that Discord? Like, what is that team based? What do you think the team based format of factions? Like, what does that add to the PvP experience that maybe that definitely GBL with its lack of sort of communication between you and your competitor, but then like Silph Arena, where you're more in the past were more face to face and surrounded by other battlers. What do you think that factions adds to that experience?
I think factions adds a lot of like, I don't know what the right word is, but like getting support for your battles, where if you're not sure how to improve, you can very easily contact your team and say like, hey, how can I improve? Or even a couple times, like my opponents that I've played in factions, they've been like, oh, your team was weak to X Pokemon. Maybe you should have put in this instead. Like, yeah, it's similar to just regular Silph tournaments too, in that you can ask, say after a tournament is done, you can ask people what you can do to improve. But with factions, in terms of like adding to the like PvP experience, it's just been nice to be able to have people you can rely on to ask questions. Because obviously, like you said, you can't do that in GBL. So that's been nice just to have people to talk to.
And then you mentioned that you've only been playing the Great League role for factions. If there was another role within the factions format that you were able to try or play, is there another role that you would want to play?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably want to at maybe some point try out one of the like Great League themed metas. For those who don't know, there's like two themed cups within factions that like two people will do like each of the cups. So we've talked about switching up the roles like a little bit, maybe briefly. But honestly, I like Great League because that's the league I feel more comfortable in, say, than Ultra or Master League. But I like being able to run essentially whatever Pokemon I want. Obviously, that would help me win. But yeah, I mean, I thought about switching to, say, one of the field specialists. That's what it's called. That role. But I like it in Great League. It's been pretty good.
So with factions as formats, with each team member playing the different role, I've heard sort of from the outside of different teams, the different people will have to, there's one or two people that have to specialize, that have to focus on Ultra and Master League. And to inject a little bit of humor into this, what kind of insanity do you have to really want to focus on the Master League and the absolute monumental grind that would potentially have to require?
For me, like, I don't even know. Like, for me personally, with my team, the people who have done Master League, one of them I know is like a really big raider, so she already had a lot of Pokemon prepped, like pre-factions, so that helped a lot. And the team member who's doing Master League for us now, I guess she also had a lot of Pokemon prepped or is willing to build some Pokemon. Yeah, for me personally, it's just I don't have a lot of experience with those leagues. Even though I do technically have a team of 6, but it's like I think in Master League you can only run, I think it's 2 legendaries. And I forget what the other rules are, but I just wouldn't be able to do that with the resources that I have. So I'm very grateful for my team members who are willing to do Master League.
I'm going to see if I can pull up the specific Master League information. The bits of info the couple of anecdotes I've heard of the Master League players is that the amount, and I think it was a couple of the players of Wing Attack, because we have, I think, somewhere around the scope of 70 to 80% of those players are actually have been in our Discord for quite a while. The one anecdote that has stuck in my mind is that their Master League specialist puts in an obscenely amount of money into raid passes to be able to,
I've heard that as well.
to grind the candy and XL candy requirements. Do you think that, I mean, outside looking in, because the Master League isn't something that you specialize in either, do you think that, I'm gonna hit this from a couple of different points as far as questions. Do you think that the barrier to entry for factions, and specifically in the Master League, do you think that that's too high with the XL mechanic? Do you think that maybe that should get adjusted, or do you think that it's possible that without going through a really heavy grind that you can still be a Master League specialist and still succeed?
I think without going on the heavy grind, like, you could still be a Master League specialist, but I think you'd have a lot. I hate to say this, but it would be a lot harder to win more battles, as bad as that sounds. Just because a lot of people are able to, like, whatever, like, raid more, walk more, stay with their buddy to get XLs. Yeah, I don't know. It'd just be a lot harder to succeed, unfortunately. Um, I don't know how they would adjust it to make Master League more accessible, if that's the right word. I'm not sure if this is right, but I think they did adjust the Master League rules from, like, do I want to say preseason to, like, the current season, I guess. In that, I think before they allowed 1 legendary, and now they're allowing 2 legendary or mythicals to be on your team. And that might have been Ultra League, but I think that was a good step, because, like, sort of like I was mentioning before, people might have raid legendaries prepped, and yeah, allowing more legendaries maybe would be a way to make it more accessible. But then also, if they were to do that, people would be like, oh great, now I have to grind more Legendary XL. So I don't know. That is a really tricky question. I don't even know if I answered it, but
Do you think that, and I'm gonna sort of bring a question in from a little bit later. Do you think that Master League within Silph Factions, while it's a part of GBL, do you think that in the long run that Master League is going to continue to be a part of the Silph Arena Factions? Now it's because it's currently a part of GBL, and I don't think Niantic will ever remove that, sort of with that sort of context. Also with GBL being a requirement to participate in further organized the organized competitive scene of the Pokemon Company in the Play Pokemon format. Do you think that the factions is almost obligated to continue with the Master League role? Is that something that might be removed because of, say, the XL grind, or do you think that so far, since it's already been included, that it's going to continue for the future?
so I don't see like the factions format removing Master League simply because a lot of players have already put in that grind, and for them to remove it would, I don't know if this is too harsh, but almost be like a slap in the face to those who have gone on that, say, XL Candy grind. And if they were to remove it, it's like, well, all your work was not for nothing, but like they couldn't continue using those Pokemon in Master League factions. It would say just be for GBL or just be for raids. But if people built Pokemon specifically for factions, it's like, what are they going to use them for now? There goes, a bunch of dust, bunch of XL candy. So I would see Silph keeping with Master League in factions.
I have received my email responses from Winston the Champ, so I'm going to try and sort of include these and continue the discussion. Maybe answer the question, use a little bit of Winston's response to then provide an additional question. But not having this ahead of the episode, we'll see how I can sort of play back and forth here. I don't know why my mind is currently going to the thought that since we've had Master League for as long as we have, if we're basically dealing with some sort of like Stockholm syndrome of being stuck with, we've had Master League for as long as we have, and while we might not like it, we're stuck with it. We're just gonna have to grin and bear it.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Which is kind of I don't know. It's kind of depressing. Let's see. Here we go. So the next question I have here is, what does the team-based format of the factions format add to PvP in an esports context? So to provide sort of additional context to this, I would say most, if not all, current esports are team-based formats. I would really have to dive deep to see if there really is any competitive scenarios that have 1v1 formats. I guess the only one I can think of would be fighting games, but that's just because that's how that game operates, or those kinds of games operate. Pardon me. We've had in the past of Pokemon GO PvP individual battlers be signed on to esports teams. I believe Mazer Gaming is the only one that comes to mind, although I feel like there's a few other smaller esports organizations that have signed PvP players onto their teams. I don't believe Mazer has their own specific faction. I would have to do some more digging on that one.
Yeah, that I'm not sure about.
I'm going to skim through here. Winston's. So Winston's response here is the team-based value to PvP for esports. He says, I think it adds a necessity. Solo esports, I think, have a lot less viability. I'm new to the idea of esports, and this is my first exposure to non-solo play. I think it is way more interactive and drawing a lot more eyes to it. It adds a new wrinkle to Pokemon GO PvP content creation, and I could see teams creating a following or fan base that could help to give it some momentum. JMar and Wing Attack, I think, is one example of bringing that, showcasing some of their battles, breaking them down in a content creation standpoint, and gaining a following. I think Bowling, you and the Queen Bees faction being girls, the part of the Girls at PvP Discord. What do you think the Queen Bees, your faction, and what Silph Arena Factions can, as it builds, what do you see? What do you think, like, the Queen Bees participation in factions and the Girls that PvP? How do I'm like finding a question as I'm like saying it. But like it's so, I don't want to like come off as like awkward or anything. Like, what does the Queen Bees being a group of the Girls at PvP, like, I'm trying to get to a point of like I don't know how to phrase this. I really don't know how to phrase this. Helping to promote the Queen Bees, as well as, bringing potentially other factions in that are from the Girls at PvP Discord. Do you think that there is an opportunity here to grow the Girls at PvP community and then further showcase women in esports?
Yeah, I think there is an opportunity to grow, like the Girls at PvP Discord and that community in general, through factions, because we do have while the Queen Bees does not have a, say, Twitter or other social setup yet, Girls at PvP does, and I would have to look at what the exact Twitter handle is, but they've been tweeting out like, oh, like, good luck to the Queen Bees and the other factions that are on Girls at PvP, like, good luck participating this week. Sort of like, I don't know if bring awareness is quite the right phrase, but
A further showcase, I think. Like,
further showcase. That's the word.
Yeah.
Further showcase each of the factions on the Discord, which I think is, I don't know, pretty cool. I'm not sure how else to answer that question. I'm trying to think of something, but
it's something from, as an outsider looking in both into factions and into the esports community, that knowing the gaming community as a whole is split roughly 50-50 between men and women, and this is sort of not including the transgender, non-binary folks that play video games. Also, of course, they play video games. Video games are for everyone.
Yeah.
but knowing that split, that the overall representation within esports is very male dominated, and that I think I'm now blanking on if did I have a question there? Was I leading to something? It's now gone. If there was something there, my brain is now.
Yeah, that happens to me all the time, and I'm like trying to think of a question or a statement, and then it's like, what was I just gonna say?
Yeah, fog machine. It's dissipated. It's gone.
Yeah.
Factions, and then I think the teams like yours, the Queen Bees, and other teams can, I think, help bring sort of more
more female representation.
Exactly.
Within esports, maybe.
Yeah, within esports, and then within Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
I have in the time of Silph Arena being in person, I have had my my butt cheeks handed to me on silver platters by a handful of women. So
same though.
so it's, you know, to I guess, I don't know, to sort of finish this point, to people that say that gaming and Pokemon Go PvP is like a men's world or a men's only sport, I say pish posh. To keep it,
I'd say that's stupid if people say that.
yeah, to keep it like as family friendly and old fashioned as pish posh, I say pish posh.
Right. Yeah.
Let's bring over the question about Twitch rivals. The Twitch rivals format, for people that weren't able to catch the live stream or didn't hear a whole lot about it. What Twitch rivals is in general is Twitch as an organization will basically put on a star-studded tournament of a particular game. Twitch Rivals has done, oh goodness, the only one that sticks in my head is they've done a handful of Rainbow Six Siege games. I know they've done like dozens of other video games, from games you've never heard of to the most popular games within the Twitch Rivals format. One of the, I say with an asterisk, not knowing how many of Twitch Rivals events they put on. One of the most recent was a Pokemon Go PvP tournament for Twitch Rivals. The format for that was similar to Factions, team-based, with one general Twitch streamer, one Pokemon general Twitch streamer, and then one Pokemon PvP specific content creator. Most of them, I believe, were all Twitch streamers. Most, if not all. I'd have to go back through the list and double check Twitch channels and all of that.
What?
Shh, Jesse, no. The Twitch Rivals format, more differently than Factions, was brand new accounts loaded with a particular amount of items. Each participant were to go out and catch as many Pokemon as they could, or specific Pokemon, or however they wanted to approach it, for I believe an hour or two window, whatever the particular window was, and then build their teams from the Pokemon that they had just caught, and then use those in competition. The one thing with this format to take into account is that this was brought to Twitch Rivals was in part focused with Niantic. So this isn't just a community-driven thing. This is the developers putting together this format as well. Bowling, in your sort of thought and experience within factions, what does this format do? What do you think, as far as an experienced player currently, what does this bring to PvP, both in a sense of bringing everyone to maybe a more even playing field as far as Pokemon, but then what does this bring to the table when it comes to future formats and Niantic's approach to PvP?
Like, to be honest, I don't know too much about it other than what like you just mentioned. But I do think it does seem like an interesting format in terms of making it a more level playing field. Yeah, I don't know. I'm honestly not sure what else to add just because I haven't been paying attention too much to the Twitch Rivals side of things.
It seemed like a very, oh, here's this thing, it's happening in 2 weeks, here's sort of the rough format, and then I think with a week left they announced the more core rule set. I think the maybe a more succinct question is, what do you think the that's not. I'm thinking it through my head, and it's not really a question. What's your thoughts on that format basically being used as an equal playing field as far as Pokemon, but the knowledge ahead of it, basically knowing your bulk points, your break points, knowing the different Pokemon stats and moves. What is your thought on maybe that being, if in the future, a more core format that relies more heavily on all of the knowledge of the mechanics ahead of time?
Yeah, I think could be pretty interesting, like, yeah, for the players who do that, knowing that information ahead of time. But I think it would be interesting to see, like, say, new players trying out this format, who might not necessarily have all that knowledge. But then that would bring, like, the level playing field aspect into that, and that it wouldn't necessarily be a level playing field, say, if you had new players being brought into it. But I don't know. It would just be interesting to see.
Let me see. Okay. I'm looking over Winston's responses here. I also had a sort of tangential thought on the Twitch Rivals format, and it's gone. Let's see. Oh, actually, that's not too bad. So going back to more of the thought of the team based format. We can probably wrap this up just about here. The format of the Twitch Rivals being basically one team lead with a lot of experience from... to be honest, I'm not even sure. I didn't see a whole lot of the communication between each team because of the way that their stream was formatted. Basically having one person that was very very knowledgeable about Pokemon Go PvP, one person that was very knowledgeable about just Pokemon in general, and then one having one more or less newbie towards the game and its mechanics, looking at that sort of team format and communicating back and forth of what Pokemon are good, what should you use, here's how you approach battling, and then looking at the Silph Arena Factions versus GBL's current solo format and what the Play Pokemon's format for just about every other Pokemon competitive scene being solo. What do you think might be the sort of future of that PvP scene? Do you think we'll see more of the core esports format where it's team-based and there's a lot more communication, or do you think that Niantic and the Pokemon Company will more lean on the solo format?
Honestly, in terms of like making like PvP and the esports side of things, I think there will be continue to be more of a team aspect in order to help grow and build the community in general more. I'd see them doing maybe a little bit of individual stuff, but honestly, I see it being more of a team aspect for sure.
And then I think one final very nihilistic question that I added in, I channeled for my conversations with Jesse, I channeled my inner Jesse here, and he can respond and rebuke later, before we sort of sign off here. In your experience with the different competitive scenes, do you think Pokemon Go and Pokemon Go's PvP community will survive long enough to make it through the first few years of the Play Pokemon format, knowing that the Play Pokemon format won't start until 2022 or so?
Again, the play format is not something that I know a lot about, other than what you were telling me the other day on Discord. But I think it definitely has the potential to, the PvP scene does have the potential to last long enough in order for that to be, I guess, a thing still. But I feel like it would need more, more advertisement and more promotion in terms of what the play format actually is. So I haven't heard hardly any talk about it personally. But yeah, I could see it, I don't know, going well, I guess, and PvP lasting long enough for it to happen.
And when it comes to the Play Pokemon format, I think other than the organizers, we don't have any knowledge as far as what their plans are, other than I think it's something to the effect of if you reach legend rank within GBL this season, you can get an invite to whatever whatever the competition
I forgot about
is.
that part, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the only bit of information we have as far as how that's going to function.
Okay, yeah, I didn't realize how much info we actually had.
We have very little.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, the sort of requirement to entry is that's all we know. Beyond that, there will be other invites, and then all we know is how the other games, both the from the Pokken tournament, the main series competitive scenes, the trading card games, are all solo formats. I think the main series games has had doubles in the past, but I don't know how frequently that format of competition happens. So
yeah, I know nothing about the main series games personally, so I don't know either.
Well, it's a whole lot of speculation and waiting, basically. So thank you, Bowling Bacon, for joining us. Thank you to JMar for joining us earlier as well, and thank you to Winston the Champ for sending off some of his answers via email format. At some point, I'm sure I'd love to get all of you guys and more people just sort of coming in and chatting, and more of a I don't know, this kind of casual formatted style is kind of nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Let's see. You've got to go. I have the rest of a Sunday to I don't know, say it with confidence, conquer. Not that my plans are solid. Jesse, I know you're here. I don't know if you have any final words, but I'm gonna let Bowling Bacon go. Thank you again for joining us here.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
You have a good day.
You too.
Jesse, do you have anything to add here for catching the last little bit?
Channeling your inner Jesse, huh?
Huh?
Channeling your inner Jesse.
You are very glass half full. I'm sorry.
I'm optimistic.
No, you are pessimistic, my guy.
Or that one, yeah.
Yeah.
If Fire Emblem has taught me anything, it's look at every option and assume the worst.
Do you have any?
Sounds like you should have had the notes for the Play Pokemon Open.
That's all I had. There aren't any
Oh.
other. There isn't any other details as far as Pokemon Go PvP. So,
Okay. I mean, I only tuned in for like the last 10 minutes, so
Okay.
I don't know all that was discussed.
no worries.
I will have to go back and listen to the recordings myself. To kind of be contrary to what Jessica was saying, I think that something needs to change within the way PvP in general works for the interest to stick around.
Mhm.
Because at the moment, XLs are incredibly barrier to entry.
And we did bring up the Master League requirement that was it's hefty. But it's kind of a Stockholm syndrome. It's been around so much that it's not going away. So
Yeah.
there's really
I think if there was some way for them to, I mean, they have, I will give them credit, they have been doing better at giving people access to things for XL. Like Jellicent's been around, Diggersby has been around. We've had opportunities to get Sable Eye Candy, but still the barrier to entry for those requires, I mean, even with, you know, some of the content coming out here in the future, potentially, that's still a barrier to entry for certain events. Like getting to Legend, it's Legend, right? For being a qualifier potentially for the upcoming season.
believe so.
The amount of, I don't want to say defitting, but just being straight, GBL I don't think is an accurate way to measure someone's play level. I think it's a great way to say they at least have experience in the mechanics of how the game plays. But I think that in itself is a barrier to entry as well. Because someone like me, I don't have time to play those sets every day. But that's a barrier to entry for me. I can't get to Legend if I don't play, but I don't have time to play. And I prefer to make my work and my personal life priority over the game. So I guess that's just on me, as some people would say. But like that, don't get me wrong. They didn't say that I still wouldn't have a chance to participate.
Yeah, this
It's
is
just that
the
those
early
people are higher in queue.
Yeah, it's the early invites versus
General admission.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you could phrase it that way. But who knows? They've literally like no other information has been released. So who
Classic
knows?
Niantic being very vague about rules and
Well, I
what's
think
going on.
I think it's. I mean, in part Niantic, sure, but the Pokemon Company and the rest of the Play Pokemon organization has a lot of work both in bringing Play Pokemon back as in-person events, along with all of the other competitive formats within the Pokemon's competitive scenes.
Arena.
So, between
Yeah.
the core series, the trading card game, everything else. So I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you, everybody, for listening to a Battle Science bonus podcast, a community chat with JMar and Bowling Bacon, as well as Winston the Champ's email responses. Winston, if you're listening, I'm sorry I didn't get to more of your answers. I could maybe read through them. Let me see if there's anything else that sticks out in my mind here. As I read off, you can follow us on Twitter at battle_science. You can go to youtube.com and search up Battle Science, where you can find the video format for this podcast, as well as the video formats of all of our Battle Science podcasts from the past ways, as well as the VOD versions of some of our bigger live streamed tournaments. If you want to catch any of our live stream content, you can go to twitch.tv/battlescience. Join us over on the Discord and communicate with us. If you want to financially back us, which we greatly appreciate, you can go over to patreon.com/battlescience. And back us at the $1 tier or more will get you access to the Battle Science After Dark podcasts. $5 or more will allow you to be a Battle Science Patreon podcast producer. You get your name read out at the beginning of every podcast for that month. Thank you to our Patreon producers. I shouted out earlier. All five. Dolphin93, James, Winston the Champ, Evo Stevo, and JMar. Let's see here. Gonna review the last little bit of Winston's email. Let's see. I don't think there's a whole lot that we haven't already covered here. I was able to pull in a couple of his answers here and expand upon them, so that was okay. Yep, I think that'll do it. Yep, thank you everybody for listening. We'll catch you guys, if you're listening to this as it releases, we'll catch you guys next week for another Battle Science podcast. Wait, hold on. This week is an off week. Next week is the Battle Science podcast. Or wait, no, did we have a Battle Science podcast this last week?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so then in 2 weeks, well, this is going to release on a Wednesday and Friday. Wednesday for Patreons, Tuesday or Wednesday for patrons, Friday for everybody. So if you're listening to this as it releases, you'll hear a Battle Science podcast next week. If you're listening to this later, boy, is there probably content all over the place for you to have sent into your ear holes via speakers.
That sounds dirty.
It sounds awkward. Have a good day, and we'll see you out there on the battlefield.